Friends, this is Brent Uris, personal coach, and I'm here to talk to you about the flow state. So specifically what we're going to get into this video is how to, well, first of all, what the flow state is and why I believe it should be very important to you and why I think you should turn it into a focus for yourself moving forward, especially if you're in any kind of a single profession endeavor, such as like an entrepreneur or a freelancer or artist or any kind of vocation such as this one, what it is specifically, and then how to go about entering into the flow state and staying in it and kind of moving into deeper and deeper layers of it, and what you can kind of expect if you go about your life this way, as opposed to the alternative, which is to not be in flow, which totally sucks. So I'm going to assume that if you click through to this video that you already have some idea of what the flow state is, and you have a general idea of why it's important. Nevertheless, what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of offer my own definition so that we can be on the same page about this. I'm going to reference my notes. Cool. So the flow state. To be in the flow state, it's almost like saying, if you're familiar with these like spiritual phrases of being in the moment or being in the now or being present, it's kind of like that. But in an applied way, so that you're present right now, but while you're in the process of doing something or completing something or working on something, as opposed to, say, meditation, where you're just kind of sitting and doing nothing. You would not typically consider that to be the flow state. The flow state is something that you can be in, say, any given moment. It's my intention to be in flow as I speak to you and deliver this video to you. And so it can be like there while you're engaged in something immediately. And it's also a state that you can live your life from. So you can just go about your entire day in a state of engaged creativity. And I think that's what we all endeavor to do. And on some level, this is kind of what we're all attempting to create for ourselves. When you're in the flow state, there's a very particular relationship that you have with time, in the sense that you're not attempting to rush ahead to something. There's no sense of urgency or impatience in what you're doing. And so therefore you're not, like, say, clamoring to complete something, although you can be moving very quickly, and we'll kind of get into that distinction. And also you're not pulling away. You're not hiding. You're not being dragged around by your ankles into life, so to speak, but instead you are moving with your absolute intention into what you're doing. And so when you're in this state, there are a lot of benefits. I mean, first of all, it feels good. It creates this sense of being just on, like just kind of like totally on, and to have all your faculties engaged, as opposed to, say, being kind of like distracted or unfocused or distant or tired or whatever. It also kind of, it's a state of great creativity, in the sense that when you're in flow, and this is so interesting because you'll notice that creativity comes from a spot other than your mind and other than your memory. See, when you're not in flow, for example, I think all of us have had this memory of, say, or an experience rather, of making a song or writing an essay, making something, and we're not really feeling it. We're not, the creative juice isn't really there. And so what we end up doing is we rearrange that which we've already read or seen elsewhere, or that which we've already done in an earlier point, and we kind of rehash it, kind of change it around a little and kind of offer it, try to offer it as a new thing. And it's devoid of juice. First of all, you'll notice that as you're doing it, there's a certain pain that you experience while you're doing it. It feels like a drag. And then you'll find that when you produce the work, you're not feeling all that amazing about it. You're not feeling all that hot about it. And you'll also notice that you can give it to somebody else, and they may look at it and say like, oh, this is good, almost as if they're saying like, this should be good. Like, for some reason, this is checking all the boxes, but it's not getting me there. It's not taking me to the promised land. And that's how you know that you made something from a lack of flow, or from outside of a place of flow. So that's kind of that's sort of how the whole. Oh wait, yeah, and one more one more element. There's a lot going on here. The place that when you are in flow, the ideas come from some other place. And what place is that? And it's a little bit mysterious. And I've heard many different accounts. And but here's what strikes me as the most accurate way to describe where this new creativity, these new insights, these new songs and new poetry and new writings come from. I'm going to sip my water and I'm going to tell you. It comes from what Adyashanti might call the unmanifested. And so we're going to get a little spiritual here. I hope you're down with this. And this is going to sound perhaps a little bit strange, but this will be, I think this part of the video will be the most rewarding for you if you follow me through on the following here. So, that's, the preface. When you look at the world, what you see and perceive are manifestations. You see forms. You see me, my body. You see that lamp over there, and this art, and you see other stuff in your room, and all of these things are manifestations. And as such, any manifestation is bracketed with a creation and a destruction. So there was a point when it didn't exist, now it exists, and then later it will not exist. It will either fall apart, it will decay, it will be destroyed, it will die, whatever it is. All forms are created and then are uncreated. But the aspect of existence that is form, that of existence which is manifested, that we can see with our senses, is actually only one half of the coin. And there's an underside, which is the unmanifested. And the unmanifested is a realm that is locationless, timeless, neither here nor there. In fact, any way that you might describe it, it's like you can only describe it in a negative sense. It's like it's not this, it's not that, it's not this, it's not that. But there's an absolute reality to it in the sense that everything that comes into existence comes from it and comes back into it, and it is just pure unmanifested potential, and it is what we're made of, and furthermore it's what we originate from. It is our home, and it is our very essence at the very bottom of what we are. In fact, you would know it inside yourself as the void. Have you ever had a moment where, in between channels, in between YouTube videos, in between songs, in between moments, there's no stimulus for a few seconds, and what emerges? It's the sense of silence comes up. And it freaks a lot of us out because I don't know why exactly it freaks us out. I guess it freaks us out because it's just so deep and fathomless, and it reminds you of how impermanent everything is, and it reminds you about how everything is destroyed in the end. And everything that you believe you are, and everything that you're attached to, and everything that you hold on to, and everything that's important to you, at the very, very end, it's taken from you if you don't voluntarily, surrender it. It comes apart. Everything is erased. The slate is always wiped clean once again. And And for those of us who are unwilling to look inside the void of ourselves, there will always be an undercurrent of fear. That's always within us, just an unwillingness to look at death, an unwillingness to consider death, an unwillingness to consider non-existence, which is ironically, as I'm saying, it is our home. It is the substance of what we are. It's with us even right now. So it's funny. I actually didn't really intend to get into that, but it's what's kind of interesting about this unmanifested realm is that when you intend to create something, you draw on it. And especially if you don't have any beliefs that would get in the way of you manifesting this. Suppose you wanted to write a poem, just as an example. You want to write a poem and you want to write a really good one, and there's a certain effect that you're looking for. If you have a belief about yourself like I'm a bad poet, or if you have a belief about poetry where it's like, it's really impossible to write a good original poem, and all the good ones have already been written. If that's something that you believe, then the unmanifested realm cannot contend with it. It is curtailed at that point. But if you do not have any confounding beliefs, then as an aspect of this unmanifested realm, you can call forth, you can actually make requests and command forth other manifestations. And so, if you want a new idea or a new poem or an idea or something to write about, then it will be there for you when you're ready. And in a way, that's what's happening right now in this video. This is a live demonstration. I have a general idea of what I want to share with you. I wrote some notes, but even now, as I'm speaking to you, this is not what I have in my notes, and I didn't really expect to go here. And nevertheless, the request is being fulfilled because I wanted to make a video for you that would teach you about the flow state and about the nature of creativity, so that you can more readily enter into the flow state and remain in it and dwell in it and operate from it. Because as I typically state at the beginning of all my videos, my highest value is for you to live at the from your purpose, at the foremost of your life's purpose. Because when you're doing that, that's how we take life by the balls a little bit more. That's how we evolve more deliberately, and that's how we offer more of offer completely that which is inside us to give. So yeah. So that's the purpose of the flow state. When you're in the flow state, you're in a creative state, and then instead of just rehashing and drawing from your already chewed bits of information, something new is able to enter into this atmosphere through you as a vehicle, as a portal. And this is only possible when you're completely and utterly engaged with the task at hand. You're not trying to get through it, and you're not trying to get to the end of it. And you are in a state of enjoyment. And you're also not trying to get anything in particular out of your video. Like you may have an idea of like, okay, when this is done, I can use it for this, and hopefully I'll get, certain results at the end, whatever it is. But so that's there. And so there's a reason why you're making what you're making when you're in this creative state of flow. But then there's paradoxically this other part of the creative process where you just don't know what this video is for, or what this poem's for, or who's going to hear it, or who's going to listen to it, who's going to get access to it, what ripples it will cause on the way down. And there's a certain trust that's required that whatever it is that you're making, it will hit its mark at whatever point, in whatever situation, that it's serving a purpose. And there's a distinct knowing in there when you're in the state of flow. Cool. Right. Okay. So yeah, I have like a list here of like, okay, how to be in flow. It's like, so treat this as your most important opportunity. Okay. Yes. A brief note here on focus. So you can be in the flow state to the extent that you are focused. And to be focused is to be only doing one thing at a time. And so as before, this applies in both a micro and a macro perspective. You say in a micro perspective, it's what are you doing in this 1 hour? Suppose it's your work day, you're at work, you have stuff to do. How many things are you doing simultaneously? How many tabs open do you have on your browser? What's like, how many kind of like activities are kind of swirling around in your head that you're hoping to get done before the end of the day? Because the extent to which you're divided is the extent to which you can't really be in control of your attention, and you're kind of flitting along the surface of things without diving deep into the task at hand. And flow is only possible when you are completely and utterly engaged with one thing, one activity, and one outcome. As soon as a second one comes in, you're diluted to a certain extent. And 3 and 4 and 5, it makes it even more difficult. Flow is only really possible with sustained focus towards a single outcome. Therefore, it's better to at any moment to choose one thing that you're doing and then move it all the way through to completion. So that's the micro level. And then on the macro level, we have a similar thing that's happening too, where it's like, well, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing on a day-by-day, month-by-month, and year-by-year basis? What are your different goals? What's on your bucket list? If you're like me, you have a lot of stuff that you hope to do in this lifetime, a lot of experiences, a lot of places you want to travel, a lot of accomplishments, achievements, and so forth. And we're blessed because, barring any, unforeseen sudden departures from this reality, heaven forbid, there really is, generally speaking, enough time to get all these things done. And it is possible. But what's funny is, I think a lot of us have this idea, and I'll bet you and I are both guilty of this. We have this idea that like if we have like 20 things that we want to do, that if we're just kind of like haphazardly doing all 20 at once, that it will all get done like over 20 years, like on average it'll all get done at the same time. But I don't actually think it works that way. I think that if we have 20 things that we're trying to do all at once, the amount of time it takes to get it all done is much longer, probably twice or thrice as much as it ordinarily would be if you were to do things in sequence. There's a challenge because those of us who are creatives, you get a lot of people, a lot of visionaries, a lot of people with a lot of stuff they want to do, and you get a lot of ADHD folk are in this category, and it's really hard to concentrate on one thing at a time. And then there's another category of people who they're not, shall we say, burdened by having lots of visions and having a lot of, creative visions come to them all the time. They just have like one main thing that they're doing, and they're able to just focus and get all the way there. And so the seed of flow, of course, is to channel the visions and the focus and do things in sequence. It's not really within the scope of this video to talk about how to do that, although it's incredibly important. I want to get to that, but I will just offer like one little piece here, which is I suggest that if you really do want to turn these visions into reality, choose what appears to be your best opportunity. Don't spend a whole lot of time hemming and hawing and trying to figure out exactly the right one and doing your pros and cons and pros and cons. It won't really get you anywhere after like the first 3 pros and the first 3 cons. So just choose what seems like the best opportunity and let all the rest go away, and let completion be the word of the day, the word of the month. Get all the way to completion. and give yourself the freedom to focus entirely and devote yourself entirely to what you're doing, because that's how you get into flow, and that's how you really create your masterpieces and get that real traction on your career that you want to, where you're actually making progress and really moving the needle, in Brendan Burchard's words, where you can go like, wow, like, here I am, more successful than I was before. Like that real deal success is only possible if you stay in the flow state, and the flow state's only possible if you're just completing one thing. So therefore, I invite you to focus, to choose one thing in any hour, in any day, in any year, one or two things. I mean, two is also fine. That's probably manageable. Use your common sense, and to just, all you have to do, man, is just approach it every day. Show up every day, do it, set little tasks and accomplish them, and the whole texture of your life will change in a positive way. I think that's about what I got for you. I'm just checking here. Make sure to finish what you start. Got that. Give the fullness of your attention to this task. Got that. Yeah, we're all set. So that was a video on creativity. That's how to be creative. That's how to be in flow, rather. That's how to be in flow. And I guess the main takeaway is to engage fully with the most important opportunity with your life and drive it to completion. And don't allow yourself to get distracted. The next video will be on distractions, I promise. Okay. In terms of promo, I don't have too much special to offer, besides the fact that if you've never gotten a free coaching session with me, you should absolutely do it, because it's rad and a lot of fun, and there's just like a lot of amazing stuff that comes as a result of it. And if it's your desire to really understand and embody and fulfill your potential, then I can help you. So there'll be a link for that below. That's all. Have a wonderful day.